The biggest mistake a lot of small companies make is selecting their sales team. So let's say you're a small company, you're just getting started, you're ready to commercialize a product. You want to get this right, and I've worked with a lot of companies, I've seen a lot of companies over my 20-year history that get this wrong, and it costs them a lot of money. Sometimes it devastates the company, but it definitely prolongs the commercial process of starting bringing in revenue. My name is Tony Bishop. I'm the CEO of Connexus Search Group. We've been in business for 20 years. I've worked with mainly small companies, helping them build their technical teams and their sales teams. And I just wanted to tell you about the common mistakes that I see made, so hopefully this will help you be more successful and get off to a great start. Here's the number one thing. You probably have a VP of sales or a chief commercial officer. They'll be involved obviously in the process and driving the process, building the sales team. And this is what I would say is just get the process right. Decide on the decision, figure out the decision criteria. What are you looking for in a sales rep? Get that established, create a scorecard. It's easy to do. Figure out the criteria that you're looking for in a sales rep, the experience you need, the personality attributes, the skills. Put those on paper and then create a scorecard 1 to 5, and 1 being the candidate doesn't possess the skill, 5 the candidate demonstrates the skill at a high level. Create a common scorecard that everybody can use as they go through the interview process. What happens is a lot of times small companies, a lot of people want to be involved in the decision, and rightfully so. I mean, it's the future of your company. So you may have 2 or 3 people involved in the decision and trying to hire people. And most likely your VP of sales or chief commercial officer driving this, but when the candidates are brought into corporate headquarters for final determination, if there's not a scorecard and a common decision criteria that you guys have established before you started interviewing, then what happens is everybody has their opinion, everybody has an idea of what the right candidate's going to be, and then there's no way to gain consensus on the best candidate. So this can be a lot more methodical process, and done properly when you put the time in to think through up front what you're looking for. So you got to make sure you establish a decision criteria, put it on a scorecard, and then that way everybody has a scorecard. When they interview, they can use that scorecard to rank each criteria that you've established. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that, and here's the biggest thing, the most important thing in small companies, you guys don't have a lot of latitude on hiring people without exact experience. So if you're let's say a 10 or 15 person company, then everybody in that company has to be knowledgeable about their job and the industry. You can't get by with hiring somebody who doesn't have the knowledge, because you're just too small of a company and everybody has to contribute. So for salespeople, I think the most important thing is figure out your sales process. It's like, who do your sales reps call on? What person, if it's a hospital or a physician's office, biotech company, pharmaceutical lab, maybe an R&D lab, you have to figure out who do your sales reps go to the very first sales call to gain access into the account. That's called point of receptivity. If you've read Miller Hyman's Strategic Selling, they're one of the first groups that taught people how to sell to multiple decision makers. But you have to know how they're going to get in, how they're going to break in, what is the sales process, what is the point of receptivity, who are the decision makers in with your client, who's going to eventually say yes and help you make a placement, sell product or whatever. So determine that. Let's say, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say the point of receptivity is a VP of R&D in a pharmaceutical company. Well, it's kind of easy to figure out that the candidates that you hire, they need to have called on VPs of R&D in pharmaceutical companies, so they have a Rolodex and they can get in the door. You can't afford, in small companies, to hire somebody who doesn't know the decision makers and has to build the relationships with them. You just don't have time. So that's the ideal candidate, somebody who has the exact, the same Rolodex that they can use to get in to see these people. So that's just one example of decision criteria on my scorecard, I would have that as in the experience section as something that I would rank very highly. I'd want to see that they had relationships with VPs of R&D. Now the other thing is you can get into other aspects of experience, but also then you have to start looking at the intangible attributes of a successful person. So if you're a small company, then you really would also like to have somebody from another small company, because if somebody's been successful at a large company, they might be able to be successful at a small company, but that's risky. You can't take the risk. You'd rather know that somebody's already been successful at a small company, because then that removes that variable. So that might be another criteria you'd want to look at is, hey, they've got the call points, they're used to working for a small company, and then you can start looking at the intangible attributes, the person's genetics, like are they, what else needs to happen for them to be successful? Are they super confident? Are they a type A personality, a domineering type personality, a hunter versus a farmer, as they would say? And there's different ways to determine those attributes. Some of it is you can use personality tests, but the other is just to interview the person for those personality traits. And it's too involved to go through in this video, but the main thing I want to get across is figure out the decision criteria that you need, that the candidate needs to have to be successful. Gain agreement amongst yourself, all the executives and human resource, contract recruiter, whoever's going to be involved. Get this stuff on paper. You guys agree to what the important factors are going to be, and then as you interview against those factors to make sure you're selecting the right person. So let's say one of the intangible attributes would be, hey, we need somebody who's got a very creative approach to winning business. So we think that's going to be a very important trait. And maybe you already have a few sales reps in your company and you can kind of copy their background, the ones that are being successful, and try to clone them. But let's say creativity is one of those things, and you put that on your criteria, on your form, and then you have a scale 1 to 5, and you want to look for that trait. How have people demonstrated being creative to win business? And so you just ask questions. I mean, it's basic questions like, hey, tell me about a time that you had to take a novel approach to win business, and let them answer. Now, keep them focused on being specific. Sometimes candidates will say stuff like, well, hey, listen, I'm super creative, I always win that way, everybody says I'm creative. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for a specific example. No, tell me about a time when you had to use a creative approach to win business. Oh, I was calling on XYZ company and I was getting blocked through my normal channels of getting in, and I came up with a very creative way to introduce my product into their company, kind of through a backdoor channel, but it worked. I don't know the exact example, but you look for creative approaches, and you look for specific examples that they could demonstrate. So in that case, you may give them a 5. Hey, they really demonstrated creativity in that circumstance. And then what happens is when everybody has a scorecard. Let's say 4 people are involved in the interviewing, and the 4 of you interview separately. Don't interview together, interview separately, and then compare notes and see how well they compare. How you look at each other. That's an easier way to make a decision. Here's one thing that a lot of you do. I see a lot of companies doing it, and it's not predictive of success of the candidate, and this is the boardroom presentation. I hear this all the time, and it's just not effective. So a lot of times maybe somebody will do an initial interview over the phone, they'll bring a candidate in, and then they'll tell them, hey, we want you to do a presentation. You're going to present to the CEO, the Chief Commercial Officer, the CFO, all the executives in the company. You're going to bring your PowerPoint, we'll put you in the boardroom, we'll let you present. That doesn't tell you anything about the candidate from a standpoint of the criteria you're looking for. That may tell you how well they present. That may tell you how well they prepared. It may tell you how well they did their research. That tells you how well they do PowerPoint. It would tell you how likable they are when they're presenting in front of a group, if they're engaging everybody in the room. But I have to tell you, we get that request a lot. We want C-level suite contacts, and for the most part, sales reps don't, not unless they're selling hospital renovations and doing the developers developing a whole new hospital, whatever. Mainly those people don't, most sales reps don't get into the C-suite, and they're not doing boardroom presentations. So it may be an efficient way to get all your people together and to see a candidate in person, but it's really not a good interview to dig into the criteria you're looking for and figure out if the candidate possesses that criteria. It's just not the best way to go. And let's face it, there's some people who wouldn't do good in a boardroom presentation, who would be awesome at working with each individual decision maker in a process and gaining their commitment and moving the sale forward. So anyway, I see this so much, I just felt like I had to present this information to you. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be glad to help. I think the most exciting thing for us is to partner with people, help them think through what they're really looking for, understand their sales cycle, or help them understand the sales cycle, and then help them understand the right people that can implement that sales cycle, and then look at the personality traits that they should possess. So it is it's a complex process, but it's not that hard. You just have to work your way through it. So if you have any questions, certainly let me know. I hope I help. My name's Tony Bishop. I'm the CEO of Connexus Search Group. We've been recruiting for 20 years. We know the industry inside and out. I'll be glad to help you.